We've had an extremely busy day of NHL news. We saw a trade involving New York Ranger captain Jacob Trouba. The Rangers then followed up with a huge signing of Igor Shesterkin. There was also a major rumor about Brady Tkachuk and the New York Rangers today. Some key players are returning from injury in the Buffalo Sabres. Also, pondering their future, we had some interesting comments from GM Kevin Adams. We'll discuss all of today's news coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have lots to talk about today. It's been an incredibly busy day. Of course, we have videos on the channel today already kind of recapping some of that news, including the Jacob Trouba trade and the Igor Shesterkin signing. I do have a lot more stuff I want to talk about when it comes to Jacob Trouba. There's a lot more comments from the player and things that make this saga a little bit more interesting. But before we get into all that, we do have a few other quick news items that I do want to discuss here quickly. First up, we had more news from the NHL waiver wire. Earlier in the day, we were expecting the possibility of Jacob Trouba being on waivers. And, of course, that never happened because the trade came together. But instead, we saw the Carolina Hurricanes place forward Brendan Lemieux on unconditional waivers for the purpose of contract termination. So Brendan Lemieux and the Hurricanes have agreed to mutually terminate the contract, so he will become an unrestricted free agent. Not sure what the future holds for Lemieux, but he will no longer have an NHL contract once he clears waivers tomorrow. So that was an interesting development. A couple players are making their return from injury. Thatcher Demko has been activated by the Vancouver Canucks, so he should be able to get into at least backing up and hopefully play here in the near future. So, of course, we know the Canucks have done relatively well with Kevin Lankinen being a really strong performance here so far. Shelov's hasn't been the greatest. If it wasn't for Lankinen and that signing that came late in the offseason into training camp, they might be in trouble. But he's been a really good pickup for them, and we'll see about Demko. I don't know. I would imagine he'll ease Demko in slowly. I don't think that they really want to get into a case of, overdoing it with him too quickly, because I think that's played a role in the past. He's played way too much, I think. So we will see. Either way, he's back for Vancouver, and that's a huge positive. The Vegas Golden Knights are getting captain Mark Stone back as well. He's been out, missed a number of games, but he returns from injury. Of course, Mark Stone was also just recently named to the Team Canada squad for the upcoming Four Nations face-off. Now, on to some other news. I want to talk about quickly the Buffalo Sabres, and then we'll get into all the stuff that links to the Rangers, because all the other news is Ranger-related. The Buffalo Sabres, we know there's been lots of rumors about changes that might be coming there. GM Kevin Adams spoke to the media today. I know I've seen reports that some media members had requested that he be available for questions and speak to the media, and he did that today and made some interesting comments. A couple that stuck out to me. One, he said that obviously that the Buffalo is not exactly a preferred destination, if you will, for free agents. Mentioning that Buffalo doesn't have palm trees and that the state of New York has taxes. So, kind of insinuating a state like Florida, for example, with no state tax and, nicer weather might be more of a preferred destination. And he's not really wrong. But at the same time, I think, free agents want opportunities and they want opportunities to win. I think a lot of players want to win more than anything. But why bringing that up now? I don't know. I mean, is that maybe like a defense mechanism to say why more wasn't done in the offseason? I'm not sure. The other thing that he said was, which I found really weird, but it's already been speculated enough that, Sabres owner Terry Pegula is very involved. Pegula has been, obviously owns the Sabres and the Buffalo Bills. And Adams said that he's on the phone with them every day and that Terry wants to be part of the solution here too. I'm like, okay, well, maybe that's your problem. Maybe your owner, who's, not a hockey person, is meddling too much and too involved in some of these decisions. I mean, I know that there's some of the media that are not fond of this general manager anymore. I know Kevin Adams has had a long relationship with the Pegulas and worked with the Sabres in other roles before he became the GM. But I don't know. I mean, this team is, they had a good stretch, but obviously they're, in the last 5 games have not gone well for them. They find themselves out of the playoffs and kind of trying to claw their way back in yet again. This team and this fan base has been, out of the playoffs for so long. We've heard lots of speculation about trades. Like even the name of Owen Power has come up. I'm not really sure that they really want to move him, but his name has been out there. We've heard about Dylan Cousins, Jack Quinn, guys that are maybe not having the seasons they were hoping for. I'm not sure what this team needs to do, but there's definitely an angle here from Adams' press conference today, kind of insinuating that he's having a difficult time, I think, really getting stuff done. And it's unfortunate too. If you look back during this long run of non-playoffs for this team and this franchise, they've drafted a lot of good players that are no longer with this team. Look at Jack Eichel and Sam Reinhart, both Stanley Cup champions on other clubs. Like, that's gotta hurt. So I'm not sure what they got to do there in Buffalo, but they've had a lot of just, not great people running the franchise, in my opinion, and I think it plays a big role. But this, to me, I think Adams kind of told on himself, essentially, that the owner is very much involved and might be hindering, more good being done. I don't know. Just an interesting press conference here, nonetheless. Now, as I mentioned, all the rest of today's news was an extremely news-dominating day from Chris Drury and the New York Rangers. Of course, we had gotten word earlier in the day, I think it was probably late morning, close to lunchtime, that Jacob Trouba was not going to play in tonight's game against the Penguins. He was going to be out of the lineup for roster management purposes, and that it was believed that they were working on a trade, and that he was basically being forced almost to pick a destination because there was multiple trade offers on the table, and that if he didn't want to play ball and pick one, that they were going to threaten to put him on waivers, and that a team was going to pick him up. And he was, either way, his time with the Rangers was going to be done. So I did a video on that talking about how it seems like Trouba's time with the Rangers was up and a trade was imminent or waivers was threatened, and that it was, in the next 24 hours we should have clarity on the situation. And I had that video posted no longer than about an hour or so, and it was already bam, the trade's done. He's going to the Ducks. And obviously he had to approve that because of his trade protection. So he goes to the Ducks for Urho, Vakanainen, and a 4th-round pick. Underwhelming return, but they get the full cap hit off their books. Vakanainen making $1.1 million, which is fully variable in the American Hockey League should they choose to go down that route, so they can get the full $8 million cap hit of Trouba's contract into their available cap realm if they really want to. Now, the part that's confusing for me is, why do the Ducks want Jacob Trouba? He has the rest of this year and next year on his contract. $8 million, obviously a modified no trade. They're a rebuilding team. They didn't, for taking the whole contract, they didn't even get a sweetener. From the Rangers' perspective, I think Chris Drury did well. For a player that everybody knew that they wanted to get rid of at all costs, they didn't have to give up a sweetener to move an $8 million contract. They actually got a return. It's like a crappy return, but a return nonetheless. It's kind of shocking, but yet you saw Detroit move Jake Wallman, who's having a phenomenal year for the Sharks, and he had to give up a sweetener to move him, and we believe that he was trying to make space to pick up Trouba. Anyways, it's really weird. I don't get this from the Anaheim side of things. But their blue line is going to look interesting with Radko Gudas and Jacob Trouba patrolling back there. Players are going to have to keep their heads up, that's for sure. Now, Trouba, of course, did a media availability later in the day after the trade. Made some interesting comments. He didn't hold back, straight shooter like he always has been. Trouba says that basically this summer he was put in a position where he had to decide between his career and his family. And he chose family. Obviously that meant that he was told they wanted to trade him. They wanted him to work with them to get him onto another team. And that he was like, no, I'm using my protection in my contract. I'm not going anywheres. And we are going to stay here because his wife was finishing up a medical residency, which would have been done by now. But it got delayed because of COVID. So Obviously they don't want to be living apart, young family. I get it. I fully understand it, and I don't blame him. So, he chose his family over his career, and he said he would do it 100 times over again if given the same set of circumstances. So there was that. He said he didn't really like how things became so public after that. He said he's happy moving forward, being in Anaheim, but he's not really happy at all with how things unfolded, and he feels that things could have been handled much better. So he had no problem speaking his mind on the Rangers and how they handled things here. He also was asked, what about Detroit? Have you ever thought of or entertained the idea of playing in your home state of Michigan for the Red Wings? And he says, well, obviously, I've thought about that. I think somebody should maybe verify with the Red Wings if they were actually interested. Has anybody taken that route? So, again, did the Red Wings really want to take Trouba? That's what everybody was kind of under the impression of, but was that really the case? We really don't know. We know the rumors. Not all rumors turn out to be true. So, obviously, Trouba's made some interesting comments here. The Rangers do have a history. If you look back as well, they are not, as an organization, I know they've had different managers over the years, but they've been pretty shrewd business people when it comes to, they're not afraid to move their captain. Think about when they started tearing things down, when they put that letter out to the fan base saying, we're going to have to move some fan favorites, we're going to move some veterans here, we need to tear things down and rebuild. Ryan McDonough was the captain. He's got a lot of good years on other teams since he's left the Rangers. Ryan Callahan, he was abruptly traded. This is not new for this franchise. Anyway, so obviously Trouba not happy at all with how things have gone, and how things were handled here by the general manager Chris Drury and his staff. So clearly, it's something that they were forcing upon him. So this is not really new. But this just confirms a lot of the rumors that we were hearing. And he also said that he was basically threatened that if he didn't make a decision on one of these teams today, that he was going to be going on waivers. And then a team was going to claim him. So, obviously the Rangers were not worried about the return. They just wanted to get rid of this guy at all costs. I'm still shocked that the Ducks did him a solid, took the whole contract without a sweetener. And I don't know, look at the Ducks, and they've got a lot of youth. They have a lot of solid blue line, either prospects or guys that are very early first, second year players. What's that going to do to those guys? Going to take away some opportunity there. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't see the fit myself, but that's just me. Now, then, not long after that, we get the news about Igor signing. So Igor Shesterkin signs the 8-year contract. Kind of funny how this has been rumored for several months, and we've heard off and on that the negotiations were not going well and that he was looking for more money. And then he signs for $11.5 million over 8 years, $92 million total. And the news comes just a mere couple of hours after Trouba is traded. Obviously, the Trouba cap hit is going to be largely used to fund this Igor Shesterkin contract. Now, keep in mind, the Rangers have several other contracts that are coming up for next year, so it's not like they do have a lot of money committed for next season, but they're not at a point where they absolutely had to get rid of Trouba right now to do this deal. But obviously, that was one of the things that they wanted to make sure was done before getting this contract signed. Maybe they had an agreement with Igor longer than this, and they were waiting for the Trouba trade and whatever, the departure to take place, just to make sure that was off the books for next year. I'm not sure, but Igor Shesterkin becomes the highest paid goaltender in NHL history. 8-year deal, surpassing Carey Price. He's been the best in the business, so a lot of people feel he deserves it, but it could, we'll obviously see it could play a role in hampering their cap situation. But again, I don't think the Rangers are done here. Now, the big other rumor that came about today, and I'm not only talking about it, I'm not trying to pile onto it, but the New York Post And Larry Brooks had a big article not long after, actually it was right around the same time. It was before Trouba was even fully traded. By the time this came out, we knew Trouba was going, and we didn't know where. But we know that there has been rumors in the past few days that, and it came from Elliotte Friedman, a very reliable source, that the Rangers had some trade discussions with the Ottawa Senators. Now, Elliotte never said that was around Jacob Trouba. He never really mentioned any team player names, just that they had some trade talks, because the Rangers had a long list of players that they're rumored to be willing to move if they can come across the right deal to shake things up. Well, the New York Post runs a story that the Rangers will not be done. They're trying to do a lot more than just move Captain Jacob Trouba. They're targeting another captain, and their target is Ottawa Senators captain Brady Tkachuk. Well, and of course, that got everybody all up in arms. The Ottawa fan base is livid. The New York Rangers fan base is like ecstatic, thinking, oh, geez, can they pull off a trade to get Tkachuk? That would be awesome. Yeah, sure it would. Anyways, within a short period of time, those reports under the New York Post between Bruce Garriock, who works for the Ottawa Sun, very well connected to the Senators, and Darren Dreger from TSN, reputable hockey insider, both were able to describe that their exact words were complete BS. Absolute garbage, I think was another phrase used in the Garriock article. So the Senators have made it clear numerous times that they have zero intention of trading Brady Tkachuk. They are building this team around their captain and trying to be more successful and win with him, not move him. Like, that would be ridiculous. There's no way that the Senators can win a Brady Tkachuk trade. The article went on to say that the package would have to include, without really knowing, details of any conversations, that it would have to. You would think it would have to include Alexis Lafreniere, first round pick, and probably a few other pieces. So I see all kinds of people on social media, predominantly Ranger fans, because really, if a fan base sees that their team is from a connected reporter saying that they're targeting this star player, let the mock trades begin, so to speak, right? So, obviously, there's absolutely nothing to it. So the only reason I'm even talking about it is to dispel those rumors and say that, yes, it was a big story in part. Like, I cover everything for the NHL. If it's a big story, it doesn't matter what it is, we're going to mention that it was a thing. So I'm not spreading rumors that Brady's going to be traded. I'm not even saying anything that the Rangers are pursuing him. I'm saying it's all a load of malarkey, and it's not happening. But we're talking about it because it was a big story, and it was really dominating social media for a number of hours here today. So, and that's what we do. We recap all the news and talk about it. So it's just absolutely bonkers. So that was, in case you missed that, according to the New York Post, they are trying to pry away Brady Tkachuk out of Canada's capital to become the next power forward star player for the New York Rangers. And anyways, like I said, it's been shot down by great enough sources. BS and garbage were the words described to use that. So it's been quite an interesting day. So the Rangers are very, very busy going after Brady, apparently, trading Trouba, signing Igor. And then, of course, you throw in all the Kevin Adams and the Sabres speculation. The state of New York has just had a news-dominating day in the National Hockey League. So let me know your thoughts on the Trouba trade. Let me know your thoughts on the New York Post article saying they're going after Brady, and the Igor Shesterkin contract, which has dominated the headlines here today. So let me know your thoughts on all of that in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. This is the best place to get all your NHL news and rumors of all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time.